Yeah. It's your favorite person in the world, Terrence Prescott. So, once upon a time, I was high. Ricardo was high. Cleon was high. And we were playing Smash Brothers. And drinking. It was an entire mess of a lot of fuckery and laughter, alright? And we were talking about all kinds of stuff, philosophy, comedy, growing up, being way better off now. And then Ricardo thought it was funny to make up this idea about doing a podcast together. And there were many subjects, like the ones we were talking about before, but the monster tournament was the one that outlasted everything else. And I was very serious about it, so I was like, let's take a vote. Monster tournament won. The next couple of days I started making up the monster tournament and things, the ones that were included, the ones that I definitely didn't want in. I wanted a roster of my choices, the characters that I like, ones that I grew up with, and some of the new ones. And then I made up everybody's stats. I made up the battlefield, made up the situation. And then I decided that I would be the narrator and a referee of it. And on the day of the recording of the podcast, I will let them two deliberate on what would happen. That didn't happen, alright? These motherfuckers was like, oh, we were just joking. It was just something to talk about while we was high. I was wanting to beat their ass. My feelings were hurt, alright. I was ready to cry, but I held it in because, I'm a big boy now. And I just ripped on them and said, okay, I guess I'm going to do it by myself someday. And the day is here. And I want to take you through the whole battle and talk to you about the information and how I made up everything. So I chose these 25 first. Slippy Toad from the Star Fox series, Pyron from the Darkstalker series, an Inkling from Splatoon, Nega Duck from the Darkwing Duck series, Slash from the TMNT series, Saberwolf from Killer Instinct, Blade from Marvel, Alpha 152 from Dead or Alive, Predator from the movies, Starmon from Digimon, Tinkerbell from Once Upon a Time, Mokujin from Tekken, Behemoth from the Final Fantasy series, Mystique of the Brotherhood of Mutants, Crimson Hawkmoth of Knights of Sidonia, the Spider Gremlin from the Gremlin movies, Sans of Undertale, Alice the Rabbit of Bloody Roar, Rayquaza of Pokemon, Shumagarav of Marvel, Baraka of Mortal Kombat, Delsaber of the Phantasy Star series, Hellboy from the movies, Ganassi Ganok from the Spiral the Dragon series, and Nemesis, representing Resident Evil and zombies. Alright, so after I made the choice on those 25, there were, I think, at least 7 others, and I dwindled it down to 25. Because I wanted it to be like a bingo board, in a sense, but it's not going to turn out that way. And then I made up everybody's stats, and I chose power source, weapon of choice, and then the ratings over offense, defense, speed, evasion, life, and threat level, and added a wild card. Everybody has a wild card that gives them this sudden boost that will turn the tide, and it's used throughout the whole battle. But because of the threat level and the information that the guide gave all of the contenders, some of them immediately band together and they take out the highest threats, because that's a smart thing to do, right? So after Everybody is given dociers in their language. Behemoth's language, Predator's language, Mokujin without a mouth language, Ultimate Delsaber, Darkfall's language, Baraka, mouthful of metal language, Shumagraph with his voice coming out of nowhere because that motherfucker psychic somehow language, and the Crimson Hawkmouth Ghana language. So everybody has this information, and the guy says this is what you gotta do. You can't get out of it. Even Pyron can't get out of it. So the battle begins, and this is how it goes. Pyron taken out by a combination of most monsters because he is, might as well be considered a god. They depleted his energy source rather quickly because Rayquaza summoned up this huge ass weather storm that covered the entire battlefield, and it was raining and everything. You had the spider gremlin setting up a web base so to be protected. Behemoth couldn't hide anywhere. Mokujin was deciding on who she was going to mimic. Mystique was deciding on how she's going to do her whole trickery. Predator was assuming the stance of invisibility, but you had so many characters with heightened smell that, you know, I can only imagine that the Predator smells like pennies and diesel fluid. This is what I think, alright? Don't hold me to it. I just think that the Predator smell like pennies and diesel fluid. So, you know, they can't really hide, so I don't understand why they was making the movies that way. But let me not get sidetracked. You had Slash being his big, huge self running around with two katanas talking about, I want Blade, I want the Delsaber, I want Baraka. The Inkling setting up all kinds of weapons and shit on the cliff. And, you know, people were doing all kind of, monsters were doing all kind of things. Pyron was taken out first by a combination of everybody. Shumagraph was taken out secondly by a combination of everybody. And then Crimson Hawkmouth with her Ultra Super Saiyan fast ass had to be taken out next with the help of several monsters. And then the real battle royale began because everybody started branching off and going after whoever was close or whoever was the next highest threat, and that would be Ultimate Delsaber, Hellboy, Rayquaza, Mystique, Nemesis, Predator, Alpha 152, Nega. So you had all these fights going on, and Nemesis and Mystique ended up squaring off. And if you know Mystique like I do from the PlayStation 1 game, she had that plasma blaster and she was the second powerfulest in the game. And damn right I was using her in it. And she was out there with her weapon. She was out there changeling. And Nemesis was out there with that rocket launcher with other kind of weapons. And they had all kind of arsenals. And them two was, you know, blasting shells all over the place and had people tripping and slipping. And they were not letting up. But Mystique eventually overpowered Nemesis, eliminating him by depleting all of his HP, all of his life force. And then Rayquaza, being a smart ass he is up in the air trying to stay away from Slippy Toad and his ability of using his air wing during a fight. And Rayquaza eventually takes out the air wing, and Slippy Toad has to eject and, you know, get on the ground and, you know, deal with people saying thank you for taking out Pyron, Shumagraph, and Crimson Hawkmouth, but having to get into the fight with them fists and them knees and them kicks. And then Tinkerbell, with her Not Spells wild card, decided to eject Rayquaza from the battle. And that was literally the only thing anybody could do because Rayquaza was up in the air and wasn't coming down for anybody. And then Hellboy and Delsaber get into a fight. They going head to head, and it's both dark energy monsters, and, you know, Delsaber works with dark fails, but in this fight he's working by himself, so he's trying to survive. Hellboy trying to survive. He ain't got no allies and shit. They going head to head. Hellboy using his tail, whipping it back and forth. Danger punching, blocking a photon plasma sword. of the Delsaber, and then bites the dust. Delsaber eliminates Hellboy. Baraka and Blade going head to head. Blades clashing. Prettiest sounds on the battlefield. Blade overpowers Baraka, eliminates him. Then, during all of that, the Inkling is still up on the cliff setting up artillery, blasting everything on the battlefield. So people have to dodge his blast and fight against other people while trying to make it to him. But the Predator already up there, snapped his neck, he out the battle. Slash and a Spider Gremlin fighting. Slash ain't scared of nothing, so he all up in the spider webs talking about he about this life. And then the Spider Gremlin eventually overpowers Slash, eliminates him by suffocation, putting all kind of spells up in his shell, and he can't do anything about it. Sans and Saberwolf. Skeleton, werewolf. Sans with his laser skulls all over the place. Saberwolf sliding, dipping, diving, going through the motion, trying to get in for them ultra combos. They out there living their best life, being who they were created to be. And then Saberwolf sink them damn fangs around his neck. Decapitation, Sans out of the battle. Mokujin was like, oh, hey, what's going on? Does what Sans is doing, eliminates Saberwolf. All kind of blasts and whatnot. And then Starmine decides to empty the storm that Rayquaza created by calling a starfall summon, if I can talk right. That clears the whole battlefield, makes it all beautiful and everything. But he's coming down, and he doesn't realize he's coming down on Mokujin, who is essentially an ally. Starmine takes out Mokujin by mistake. And then Ganassi Gnorc is right there, so he takes out Starmine by flattening him into a huge star, because Ganassi Gnorc is that powerful. And then Starmine is out. So you have Ganassi Gnorc, Spider, Gremlin, Nega, Sleepy Toad, Behemoth, Mystique, Alpha 152, Predator, Delsaber, Tinkerbell, Blade, and Alice the Rabbit left. They going in, everybody fighting for their lives and whatnot. Bang, bang, teeth, teeth, blast, blast, change, change. Mystique being all beautiful on a battlefield. Alice the Rabbit jumping all over the place, Slipper the Toad not far behind. Blade handling people with weapons. Predator doing whatever he can do to take out the Behemoth. The Behemoth doing everything it can do to take out the Predator. Everybody can smell the Predator. That has heightened sense of smell. Tinkerbell just chilling, trying to make sure the good guys are being taken care of, which is Slippy Toad and Alice the Rabbit essentially are the only two good guys out there left for her to team up with. So after all of that, with all of that going on, Ganassi Gnorc ends up on top of the fallen Airwing after flattening Starmine. Slippy Toad finds that highly disrespectful and presses a few buttons on his wrist gadget. And then, bye-bye Ganassi Gnorc. Just bloosh. Then, the Behemoth ends up getting close to the Spider Gremlin. They going in on each other, and the Behemoth overpowers the Spider Gremlin. The Spider Gremlin is out. And then, everybody else fighting. You have Nega versus Slippy Toad, Behemoth versus the Predator, Mystique versus Alpha 152, and Alice the Rabbit at the same time. And then Nega with all his bombs and mines all over the place catches Slippy Toad while Slippy Toad is using his super powerful cannon and takes out Nega at the same time. Those two are eliminated. And then the Behemoth is trying to get to the Predator as close as possible while dodging all of their arsenal, and unfortunately has its HP depleted by the Predator. And then the three-way fight between Mystique, Alpha 152, and Alice the Rabbit, with kind of the help from Tinkerbell long range, ends up with Alpha 152 taking out Mystique, and then Alice taking out Alpha 152. And then the Predator, trying to get close to Alice, ends up biting the dust because Alice gets their paw around them dreads. Your Predator strong enough to snap his neck before he can pull out a blade and take off Alice's hand. So now you have Delsaber, Tinkerbell, Blade, and Alice. The last four, right? Unfortunately for Delsaber and Blade, Alice and Tinkerbell are taking a break while they are catching their breath, watching the two mans and them going in. Delsaber and Blade are going extremely ham. You have two photon sabers, and then you have two katanas, and they are going in hardcore. Delsaber is trying to win it for himself. Blade is trying to win it for himself. Then Blade wins over Delsaber, and then Tinkerbell, not being fully alert, gets taken out by Blade as well. So it's down to the last two, right? Blade and Alice the Rabbit. Blade, being the gentleman he is, puts his swords away finally and tells Alice to knuckle up. They knuckle up already. While Blade is doing 2 pieces to death, Alice is doing 13 pieces to death, which in turn makes Blade do 14 pieces. And then Alice gets on her Saberwolf shit and do 15 pieces. And these two are making the most beautiful head-to-head final contenders. Final match. They going in, it's beautiful. Blade is knocking Alice out of her zoanthrope form. Alice is making Blade's teeth retreat. They both out for blood. They both know how to draw blood. They out there just going extremely hard. And then the last head-to-head, 2 big-ass power punches. Alice tricks Blade into thinking she's going to actually connect fists with him. Turns on rave mode. Quickly does what she needs to do to drain the rest of his Dracula enchant. And wins the tournament. God asks what does Alice want? Alice wants to send everybody back home safely, which is something Tinkerbell knew she would do. And everybody is resurrected, sent back home safely. Rayquaza is brought out of whatever dimension Tinkerbell put him in. Sent back to Pokemon world. Everybody's safe and sound. Everybody beautiful and whatnot. And that's how I direct fight scenes sometimes. So, with that being said, you can kind of guess, and then you can kind of not guess how I would do the fights between my characters and whatnot. Now, because the guide gave everybody the information, the dociers or the words or the cave paintings to give everybody information, some of them knew right off bat that people with low threat levels are good guys. People with high threat levels are essential guides in their own rights. So you have all of this happening with everybody soaking in information, and then immediately when the fight starts, they know what they have to do. They all up in Power and Blade like, I don't give a fuck if you're as bright as the sun, we go do this. Everybody takes out Power, everybody takes out Shumagarav, everybody gets that Crimson Hawkmoth. So if I'm making up a fight, my own, and my own story, it's all gonna be based off of intelligence first, and then strategy second, and then brute force last. And because I have some favorite characters in this monster tournament, being Alice the Rabbit, Mystique, Alpha 152, Blade, Pyron, Nega, Shumagarav, Hellboy. I had to make them last longer than others depending on intellectual properties and whatnot. So Alice the Rabbit is the highest on my favorite characters list out of everybody in this tournament. She's in the top 25. I know that Nega Duck is in the top 25 too, but Blade is pretty up there. I think he's in the top 100. But like, everybody was chosen for a reason, but mostly it dealt with favoritism when it came to the Crimson Hawkmoth, Mystique, Rayquaza, and Nemesis from Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I took in the aspect of what games they have appeared in and how they have been directed by others, and then the characterization by the writers. And you know, I stick by Alice the Rabbit. That's a good bit. Alice was off the chain in Blood Roar, and I was whooping my brother's ass with Alice back in the day, boy. Y'all don't even know about that, alright? Alice had that spin uppercut, and then she just be leaving across the stage, and then she be doing them mix-ups, and you like, oh damn, I can't get it. And she just like Lei Fang from Dead or Alive. Holla at me, because some girl characters are the best. But Alice the Rabbit wins. She gets everybody sent home. And then God goes to doing other things with that all omniscient power can't nobody break. And on that note, I'm a dip. You know what? I'm kind of tired of making these long ass videos, and kind of tired of doing all this talking. So I'm gonna get a cough drop, take a shot, take a shower, take a blunt, enjoy the rest of this night off. And have a good life, and I hope you have a good life too. I hope you enjoy the Fantasy Monster Tournament, and be looking out for that If I Was a Pokemon Trainer video eventually. Holla at everybody soon. Mwah.